Unquesua, Yukinista Huja, Oneka Sua, Guja Sua, Ohonda Sua, Onunqua Sua, Odela Sua, Kayontasala, Gahi Sua, Ojinua Sua, Gondilia, Ogila Sua, Ojidan Agua, Yakisota Ladiwelas, Gaeli ni Gawalage, Ejiwajia Gyokeneka Galakwa, Yakisota Asataneka Galakwa, Ojistukwa Sua, Gaeli ni Anguereges, Ganidulio, and Sugwayat Nizo.
Sego and welcome to the Akwesasne Cultural Tour, brought to you by the Upper Canada District School Board, which is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. This project has been commissioned by the Upper Canada District School Board in collaboration with their students and staff, Godenius Research and Management Services, and Akwesasne TV. Its intent is to provide the UCDSB system an overview and understanding of contemporary life in Akwesasne, in addition to students' thoughts about protecting Mother Earth from a Haudenosaunee perspective. The production is designed to be student-driven, representing Akwesasne students from Cornwall Collegiate and Vocational School and the Akwesasne Foundations program. Akwesasne is just one of many Mohawk communities in northeastern North America. Our people are commonly referred to as Mohawk. However, we call ourselves Haudenosaunee, people of the Longhouse. Akwesasne is located on the St. Lawrence River and is a unique border community, as it lies partially in Canada, in the provinces of Ontario and Quebec, and partially in the United States, in New York State. Akwesasne has a population of roughly 12,000.
It's important to practice our culture and our language for a bunch of reasons, a lot of them being because the government fought so hard to try to erase that part of us, and it is kind of on a decline at this moment, and we're losing some of it. And if we continue practicing it, we'll regain that information.
We don't have much of it now, and it's very important to hang on to it. And the more we hang on to it, the more we find. The more we practice, the more we find ourselves, and the more bond, the relationship to the Creator gets stronger each day of learning where we come from.
It's very important because it's slowly declining at the moment, and a lot of our language is getting lost. And I believe it's important for our people to learn as much as that as possible and pass it on before we lose it, because there's only one of us and we can't lose it.
I think it's important for that, because if we don't practice those, we can slowly forget them. And when we slowly forget, our culture can just disappear. And that's happened to many other cultures, and it's sad to see.
Because of residential schools, our culture isn't really there anymore, and we need to make sure that it gets heard and that it stays alive like every other culture.
Mohawk people have been making baskets for thousands of years. Baskets tie us to the land from which the materials are sourced. They have had many purposes, such as fish traps and the transport of storing and washing corn. Later, baskets were woven for more decorative purposes and were created specifically for trading with the area settlers. Today, these are called fancy baskets. They are often exchanged on special occasions. Traditionally, Mohawk baskets are made from black ash splints and sweetgrass, both of which are native to Akwesasne. Basket makers usually source their own black ash, which typically grows in wetter areas. The process of harvesting black ash is passed down from elders. Black ash is the preferred material because it is easy to pound into thinner, flexible splints that remain strong throughout the basket making process. Black ash trees are a precious resource. They take up to 50 years to mature. In modern times, these trees are being threatened through habitat loss and invasive species, like the emerald ash borer. This particular beetle is threatening the black ash trees in Akwesasne, which puts an important cultural tradition at risk. Akwesasne basket makers pay attention to the environment when sourcing their materials, and efforts are being made to preserve the black ash species locally. Sweetgrass is used to bind some baskets together and grows throughout Akwesasne. Sweetgrass is prized for its pleasant aroma, pale color, and pliability. Harvested in the summer, sweetgrass is typically cut instead of pulled out at the root to preserve the plant for other basket makers. Some baskets have detailed work like curls or flowers. Still, others have traditional motifs like strawberries and plants, which play a role in the Mohawk creation story. Basket making is considered sacred to Akwesasne. Basket making techniques are not usually taught to people outside of the community.
Basket making is important because it was a tradition to women and it was passed down. I make some with my grandmother. I just started probably a month ago. I've gotten better, way better. And I've learned all kinds of like dyes you can dye the baskets with, medicines.
It is a very nice tradition that we have, and it was also something that I really enjoyed growing up when I learned how to do it. I think the first time I did it, I was around 11. It was something that I just really enjoyed doing, and I would take classes outside of school to do more basket making.
Haudenosaunee lived in dwellings known as longhouses up until the 1800s. The structure is a long and narrow bark-covered house. Panels of elm bark were lashed to wooden poles usually made from hickory, cedar, or elm. Traditional longhouses did not have windows, and there was a door on both ends of the building. Hearths or fire pits were in the center of the longhouse, used for both cooking and warmth. There were smoke holes in the ceiling that allowed the smoke to exit the longhouse. The sides of the longhouse were considered the living areas for the families. An elevated platform was used as a bed and sitting area. Woven mats would be laid down on the platform for sleeping, and furs were used for warmth. Underneath the platform was a storage area where dried foods and tools were kept. An upper platform would also be used for storage or as beds if a family had many children. Historically, each village belonged to a clan. All the women and children living in a longhouse belonged to the same clan. The husbands and fathers were from a different village and clan. As families grew, compartments were added to the longhouse. Over time, some longhouses grew up to 200 feet long. Today, a longhouse is a long building made out of logs. Traditional ceremonies, socials, and community meetings are held in the modern longhouse. The longhouse is also known to be a metaphor for the territory of the Six Nations Confederacy. Mohawks are the eastern door, Senecas are the western door, and the Onondaga are the firekeepers of the house. In 1888, Akwesasne was bestowed with the special responsibility and honor as the site of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy sanctioned fire or seat of the Mohawk Nation. The Haudenosaunee, or people of the Longhouse, also known as the Iroquois, are a confederacy of 6 nations. The Mohawks are called Ganyakgehaga, or people of the Flint. They are considered the eastern doorkeepers, because they made their villages in the eastern portion of the Haudenosaunee's ancestral territory. The Mohawks are the guardians and protectors of the eastern Haudenosaunee territory. Akwesasne is known as the land where the partridge drums. The Haudenosaunee have 13 ceremonies representing the 13 moons throughout the year. These ceremonies occur at various times of the year, often following seasonal changes. Most ceremonies are a way of expressing thanks to the people, the natural world, the spirit world, and the Creator. It is hoped that this will help to maintain the health and prosperity of the nations. The midwinter ceremony usually takes place in the second week of January. It begins when the Dipper constellation appears in the sky and the new moon can be seen. For Akwesasne, this is when the spiritual year begins. The ceremony begins 5 days after the new moon, with a traditional celebration lasting 9 days. This celebration is observed among the tribes of the Iroquois Confederacy or the Six Nations: Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. This is also known as the New Year's ceremony because it marks the beginning of a new ritual year. Each tribe has their own way of conducting the ceremony, but the usual custom is to first begin with the stirring of the ashes as a symbolic gesture of gratitude for blessings bestowed during the previous year. Sometimes a public naming is conducted where children born during the previous year are given their Haudenosaunee names.
Midwinters is one of the most important things that we have to preserve for the generations yet to come. 7 and greater is a way that our people will say that strongly, but it takes each and every day practice because it is a way of life to learn and understand what is here for us. So you see, each person has a great legacy to learn from, and they also have a ways to go on our sacred journey to learn what we need to learn to sustain us. So sustainability is very important. Continuation of our sacred language is so important. So that is important for all our children, from the cradle board up to the elders, to continue our sacred way of speaking language. That is the message for our young. Come forth, be part of what we have left, and make it stronger.
All we can do is do what we can do. And when we have kids, we can show them what we've learned. And that's all we can do. But it's kind of up to our kids and our grandkids to fulfill what we've asked of them and to where we pass, and pass on what we've inherited from our grandparents and our parents.
So what I think people should remember from us is that our tradition and what we did for the earth. We can teach our younger people, like our Mohawk language, our tradition, of course, basket making.
Just always keep in mind that anything you do will impact negatively or positively 7 generations ahead. And so it's kind of crazy to think that that's all in my hands is like 7 generations ahead of me.
Jag heter Dobalawa and Gio nu. Tordadala Quena, Shawaya Disana Guevinu, Dika Weno, Nagasat Stosara. Agueguna the Hatskawi Huggin and Gino Hotana. Nana Skana, G. Adadana Tonio Hugio, G. Ninagari was na Ohunjaka. The yacht quatta way, you sanununa, the yacht quatronio, Nori Waquego, Airuk. So Quanarunqua, Gisego, Adaniatag, and Giniochi, Sotkaiwa Daque, Gino Hodasho. Rosanaji Honjata, Itatovayato, Inu, Itatowanirata, Isan Garohiata, Nakadiwahi, Itawatskawa. Naka nura taharaksla, I tranio tumak, nanna wa negura, atro, danetro.